they've asked me, they're like, why did you have the surgery? I said, well, that would have been the easy thing to do,
Hmm.
but long term, that was not going to be the best. I don't think that would have been the best option. And I think that sometimes you've got to, not a lot of times, you've got to do the hard things. And so for me, when I committed to doing this, I'm like, we're going to see this through.
All right. Well, today here I'm talking with Chris Shepard, resident of St. Louis. Chris, welcome to the Power of Doing What Matters podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, you've been with us now going on 2.5 years, right, at the Institute, a member there?
Correct.
Yeah, wonderful. I distinctly remember you coming in, and we've known each other before you became a member there. But I remember you coming in with the back troubles that we've been working on, and I distinctly, some cases I take them on and say, what, this is pretty straightforward. I distinctly remember yours coming in and thinking, wow, this is going to be a little challenging. And I probably told you that. I said, we're going to give this a good shot.
Oh, yeah.
And but maybe give the audience here a little review of where you were at that point.
Sure. So I really never had any physical issues up until I probably was 54. So 5 years ago or so,
Uh-huh.
I've been playing sports all my life. I've been playing sports that weren't necessarily good for your body. A lot of pounding. I played competitive volleyball until I was 40 years old, softball, and then at 40 I decided I should start playing something else. So I picked up squash, which was really probably a bad idea for my body because it's as good a sport as it is. It is devastating to your body.
Yeah, for sure.
So everything was in pretty good shape. Knees, I've got 2 torn rotator cuffs from volleyball. I've got, I'm just kind of an old, not necessarily a great athlete, but I'm an old athlete. I've got the dents and dings. And then about 5 years ago, I was literally playing in a tournament I was playing a doubles tournament at the MAC, and I couldn't. After the first game, I told my partner, I'm like, I can't feel my feet. And he's like, what? I'm like, I can't feel my feet. And I thought it was, I've been stretching a lot. Like I could feel tension in my lower right back. So we tried to get it loose. As silly as this sounds, I actually had our pro go get a double vodka just because I thought that might help. Unfortunately, that didn't. But we made it. I made it through the tournament. We ended up didn't win, but took second, which is okay.
Yeah.
But at that point, things just kind of started going downhill. I couldn't play hardly at all. I couldn't get loose. And then it progressed, and I really regressed. And I got to the point where I couldn't walk more than 20 yards without my feet going numb. And so at that point, I went and saw a neurosurgeon, and had MRIs and all the stuff done. And he's like, you've got spondylolisthesis, I
Yes.
have stenosis, and I have a curvature. And he said, we're going to do a 2-level fusion at least, and then no bending, twisting, or lifting the rest of your life. And I'm like, well, that's like, I like to play golf. I like to play squash. I'm too young for this. So I sought another opinion and another neurosurgeon, and he and I talked and became friends after a while. And he's like, look, he goes, I would do everything you can not to have this surgery, just because it's not back surgery. It's your first back surgery. So I spoke with Gary Gertner, who's my neighbor, Judge Gertner, and he's like, you got to go see Skaggs. So I said, okay. So I came and saw you, and you weren't, all fluffy and flowery and saying, we're going to take care of you and it's going to be great. You were very, very direct, and you're like, this is going to be difficult. No promises. And then, so I signed up and away we went. And I will tell you, it is a process. It takes um, discipline's not the right word because if you're invested in your health, you don't need to really have discipline. You should be doing it. It should come automatic. But you gotta get into the program and you've got to believe in it and commit to it. So I did, and probably Clayton. I don't think I saw market improvement for 18 months. Would you agree?
Yeah, it took a while. I mean, we saw improvement objectively, as
Yes.
we did our assessments, and but you're still having signals, up in your feet, and I distinctly remember seeing you in the gym. You would
Oh yeah.
and the the team would report to me, Chris, he still has to bend over to relieve his back.
Yeah, I was
Inter-
squatting down
yeah,
30 times
yeah,
during a session.
yeah, intermittently, and then gradually over time, I started seeing in the reports, Chris only had to offload his back twice, and so we did see improvement, and on our measures saw improvement, but yeah, it took a while, which I anticipated.
Sure.
Man, but your persistence, and I think that's what you're speaking to. You do have to, really remain persistent, for this to accumulate and have an effect.
Yeah, I think it's like taking your medicine, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I had a friend that was an alcoholic, and he and I talked about it one time. He's like, he goes, if I don't go to AA, that's like me taking my medicine. If I don't go, I'm done. And this is
Yeah.
the way I look at this. If I don't come here and work out 3 days a week at least, and even when I travel, we're going to Chicago tomorrow, and I talked to my wife. I'm like, I gotta find a gym because I need to go work out Saturday or Sunday or whatever.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
need to. My body needs to move, and we need to keep everything firing. And that's just the way it's going to be, which is
Yeah.
which is great because I would tell you, I'm stronger now than I've ever been in my life, and I'll be 60 this year.
Well, that's quite a statement. Still are, but a very competitive athlete. So for you to say you're stronger now than before, that's saying something.
Well, the problem with my athleticism was I was a naturally pretty good athlete, and I never worked very hard. So
Hmm.
I didn't spend a lot of time in the gym doing what I should have done to build a good base, and I just kind of did what I needed to do to get by, if you will. And I
Okay.
and what
Yeah.
I said earlier, I'm not that great of an athlete. I just like to play. I'm competitive.
Yeah. Well, I think, and you and I in our younger days, we were of an era. I was telling someone the other day when I was playing college baseball. They said that's the gym over there. There was no
Right,
there's no
right, right,
there was no program design. After practice, that's the gym over there.
right, right. Use it if you want.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, wonderful. And that a lot of what you just described really layers into the insight for this week. And at the top of that insight, I had a Theodore Roosevelt quote where he says, "Only those are fit to live who do not fear to die." And I love that because I think the more fit you are, uh, the more the more resilient you'll be, the more confident you'll
Hmm.
be in all your movements. And and I think what you're talking about is you have been pouring into getting fit to live, and that's a really big, broad category, being fit. How what would you say has been key for you, uh, building this fitness? I mean, you mentioned it a bit, but maybe
I
unwrap that a little
think
more.
I think like for me, I had a goal when I came here. I'm like, I want to be able to play squash again, and I'm too young, at least in my mind, of course, to not be active and not do what I love to do. So that was kind of my goal when I came here. And you didn't promise me I would get there. Well, as it turns out, Padel came around, which is I'm enjoying more than squash, but I could go play squash tomorrow now. So having that goal in mind was always kind of, you're looking down the road. That's the kind of kept driving me, because I'm like, I want to get back to where, I was at, at least, some modicum of familiarity where I was happy. And, this is going to sound really stupid, but that's playing a sport for me. It's more than just playing the sport, right? It's a
Mm,
social exercise, right?
sure. Yep.
It scratches your competitive urge. And so one of my best friends, Chris Connell, and I, we talk about it all the time. He's 3 years younger than I am, but he's like, you and I need to stay in top shape because we've got to beat these young kids. And that's kind of the way I mean, I'm serious. And he's like, these kids, they're nowhere near where they should be. And they're not going to look like us when we're our age. They're not going to be able to do things that we do at our age. So we've got to, he's kind of the driving force behind that. He's like, we've got to keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't ever give up. So having that goal in mind of me wanting to get back on the court and kind of get back to, where I was. I mean, it was a punch in the face when I couldn't play.
Yeah.
It was, that whole part of your life. It sounds so silly at this age, to be honest with you, but it was a giant portion of my life.
Sure.
It was
Yeah.
2 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week. I'm with my buddies, we're betting, we're having fun. We may have a beer afterwards. Well, all that was gone, right? So I'm going home and I'm reading, and I couldn't replace it with anything, right? I couldn't
Mm,
even ride my bike.
yep. Yep.
So it was really bumming me out. But
Yeah. And so maybe,
thankfully, through your work and your guidance and the team here, it turned around.
so before I get into our reading here, let me speak to that, because that's a consistent time point we have with a lot of our clients, where we tell them, look, you got to stop doing these random activities within sport, because that's just going to be a withdrawal for us recovering your situation and building that stability back in, getting you fit. You're not going to get fit if you don't stop these other things. And so you had this, pretty significant period of time. We said, stop those things you love,
Mhm.
and still you were still having signals, right? You're still having. I remember you saying, "Look, I go to the grocery store, and I kind of calculate how much time it's going to take me to walk around the grocery store, and
Mhm.
and so with all that going on, but you kept going. So what helped you keep going? What helped you have certainty that this was going to work for you?
The alternative was
Hmm.
so unappealing.
Yeah.
And I would say this. I think it's important to do the hard things in your life, right? So, like I tell my kids that.
Hmm.
And we've talked about my back, and I never complained about it ever. I just did what I did, right? And they've asked me, they're like, "Why did you have the surgery?" I said, "Well, that would have been the easy thing to do,
Hmm.
but long term, that was not going to be the best. I don't think that would have been the best option. And I think that sometimes you've got to, well, not a lot of times, you've got to do the hard things. And so for me, when I committed to doing this, I'm like, we're going to see this through. And you saw improvement.
Hmm.
While I wasn't where I wanted to be necessarily. You and Greg and Kelly and everybody else, they would see these little improvements, and to me, they were so slight that it didn't necessarily register with me. But that encouragement and knowing that we're going down the road and things are improving, that's what kept me going.
That's
And
great.
and not just that, I would see guys around here that were way worse off than me, way worse off, and they're running around like nothing's wrong. So the fact that the process does work, and why shouldn't it work for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. All right, let me read this, Chris, here,
Hmm.
just over a couple minutes, and I think a story in here is going to prompt another story that I want to get to with you. So here we go. Poised to win. Imagine you're 25 years old and you have recently been named the best in the world in your sport. In the last year, you've won Wimbledon, the Australian Open, and several other world-class tournaments. You're doing things that few women in history of tennis have done. At this age, you will be able to make more money and achieve more fame and recognition for many years to come. In today's world of technology, your potential to wield influence and power will be immense. Again, you're number one in the world, and billions of people know you by name. This was a scenario for Barty, and this was the moment that she made the decision to retire from tennis. She wasn't injured or having mental problems. She did it smiling. She knowingly relaxed. Of all her extraordinary performances, in my opinion, this was her most impressive move. Following our poise principle, to be relaxed or poised ahead of a stressful event will give you the best chance of having a poised and good response and the best chance for a good outcome. And the more poised your response, the more likely you are to have an immediate relaxation and poise following the stressful event. Barty seemed to want to be poised for the rest of her life more than she wanted anything else. A CHP client recently exhibited an example of this phenomenon on a smaller scale. Bill was 77 years old and had had some back-related problems for many years. Anytime he did something out of the ordinary, he might be stiff, suffer pain, and be standing crooked for days to weeks. He'd been a client for approximately 6 months and had been very diligent with his breathing, behavior, and awareness exercises. At a family outing, he was barbecuing using a Weber grill. The Weber grill has a unique hook on the top of the lid to allow you to hang the lid on the grill while turning the meats. It is a valuable design for giving you somewhere to put the lid while you tend to the grilling. If you've used this type of grill, you know it is easy to miss hooking the lid onto the grill. When you miss, it's like expecting to have one more step on a staircase, but there isn't one. On this occasion, when Bill went to hook the lid on the grill, he missed hooking the lid and went tumbling to the ground and hit a nearby wheelbarrow. Family members rushed to his aid and to gather the meat that scattered from the grill. The meat was spared, and Bill seemed to have only mild abrasions. Importantly, after such an abrupt fall directly on his back and hip, Bill had no pain or stiffness that night or for days following. It is most likely that Bill's resiliency was in part due to his buildup of stability and relaxation before the fall. He had trained his relaxation, his poise, for the stressful event. Bill's decision to take the time and effort to do the exercises every day seemed to have paid off. His poise and prowess really showed through. Imagine if he continues to develop this. Over the years of working with and being around professional and elite athletes, I was often curious why and how certain athletes seem to handle stressful events better than others, whether it was healing from injury or making a game-winning play. My observation was that these individuals, conscious of it or not, deliberately relaxed. They maybe didn't eat the best or do their exercise as prescribed, but they knew how to be at peace. You might call them no hurry, no worry kinds of people. If my observations are correct, and if we utilize the framework of the poise principle, they healed from injuries faster and rarely got nervous in big moments because their reservoir for being relaxed was vast. Therefore, when they were called on to contract or respond, it was powerful and potent. And importantly, they would settle back into relaxing quickly and fully. It seems that what almost everyone else would have perceived as more was not Barty's desire. To know that is exceptional. To act on it so decisively, to completely relax, is extraordinary. It is hard to put Barty's decision and response into perspective. She could have had years of fame and fortune, and instead she chose no hurry, no worry. She chose to be poised. She chose not to squeeze the glass. I think it will pay off. All right, yeah. So a number of stories weaved into that passage, Chris.
Hmm.
And just to add there at the end, so I recently looked up Ashley Barty, and she retired in 2022 and has had two young kids and is still seemingly in a poised spot and enjoying life.
Well, good for her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how about you? What does that bring forward for you? Anything there?
I think it's a lot of that preparation, right? If you do the work beforehand, I think that you'll be ready to deal with whatever's in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. And as we talked a little bit before the reading, uh, sometimes it's not doing things right. So what we talk about
Right.
pouring
Right.
into being fit for life. You had to pour in not playing for a bit, and that was part
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the preparedness.
Yeah. And look, this has not been a straight line, this recovery. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's you as you and I discussed, and then I tore my shoulder up playing padel probably I don't know, maybe a year ago, and I was out for 4 months for that. And so what I
Hmm.
what I have learned though is from you guys and maybe just getting older is if I'm hurt, I'm not trying to push it to get back anymore. I'm getting
Mm.
fully healed, symptom free, and then give it another week or two because I know how long it takes to recover at this age, and I think the idea that I'm gonna, we're not professional athletes, by God, we're not making any money at this. The idea you need to push it to get back out there and risk doing more damage is beyond the pale, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
ignorant.
yeah.
But something that I did all my life,
Mm. Oh yeah,
right?
most of us did.
I've got an
Right, yeah.
aching hamstring. Well, it'll be okay.
Yeah, grind through it. Yeah,
Right, right,
yeah.
right.
Well, I want to cover the recent challenge that came your way that you responded to. It's a little more than missing the lid of the Weber grill. A little more of a fall, I
Yeah.
think, than that. So maybe tell us about the horse situation.
Oh, yeah. So we took our kids to Breckenridge for a little vacation, and my middle daughter wanted to go horseback riding. And I told my wife, literally, I woke up that morning. I'm like, honey, I don't think this is a good idea. I've been doing all this work on my back, and I just don't think that this is the right thing to do. She says, you know what? You need to go. Your daughter wants to go. It's a family event. And I'm like, well, what if I don't want to? I was less concerned about falling than anything else. I was thinking we're going to trot, and I
Mm,
didn't think the trotting would be good for my spine. So she said, no, it's a path. They're going to be walking along a path. So
yeah,
sure enough, we load up. I get on this draft horse named Winnie and tried to make friends with Winnie the whole time. Was petting her and telling her how great she was, and everything was fine. We were about halfway through the trip, and we went down to this kind of like a little gully, and we're on this, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot wide path that has giant boulders everywhere, and then smaller size rocks that probably weighs 20 pounds. But I mean, it was treacherous for these horses. I felt terrible for them, but this is what they do. And we're kind of down at this little spot, and all the horses had stopped. My horse was the last one in line, and my horse, something spooked it, and he reared up, or she reared up, and I was holding the reins, and I mean, she basically just kicked me off. I had a hard time getting my right foot out of the stirrup, but I fell to the left onto the path, and I fell right on my lower left back. Um, I'm very lucky. I could have hit a big rock. The horse could have dragged me. The horse could have kicked me. I mean,
sure. Yeah.
I walked away from this really banged up, but very fortunate. I mean, never ride horses is my suggestion from now on. But um, so long story short, we went back to the condo and got in the hot tub, and I tried to do whatever I could. My first call was here. I called Callie, my trainer. I'm like, look, here's what happened. She says, let me see if we have anybody in Breckenridge that's has the same philosophy that we have, and unfortunately they didn't. Um, but I mean, I could barely move. I could move everything, but it was like someone was stabbing me in the lower back uh, with a hot poker. It was
Mm.
brutal. So we were leaving the next day, so we drove back to Denver, got on the plane, came home, and then Kelly got a hold of Jim, Dr. George, and he came in on his day off. The office was closed, but he came in and opened it up for me to put hands on me and make sure that I didn't do any structural damage. Then that was unbelievable. It was great, and it also gave me a lot of peace of mind knowing that I didn't re-injure or worsen my spinal issues that I had. And it was just really at that point it became, I was still training here, but we were doing a lot less and just doing what I could without aggravating it. And within a matter of 3 weeks, I was symptom free again. Um, and it's been brought up, and I do feel this that I'm had I done that same thing 3 years ago, I don't think the outcome would have been nearly as positive as it has been, and the recovery by far would have been longer um, than it was unless there was other damage. I think the work that we've done here to get my core and everything else in shape was definitely a positive influence on the injury.
Great, great. Yeah, I often, when our clients have these falls or challenges, I get a little excited sometimes because I know they're likely to have a good response. They're going to bounce back. And I don't get excited that they have a fall, but that it's going to be an opportunity for your resiliency to really come through, and that trauma is a really good test. That's an extraordinary test, and yeah, I was really grateful to hear you back back into activity within a month or so. I think you're back playing padel within a month. I think, right?
Well, I'll read your text to me. Hey, you okay? What were you doing on a horse?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I got that message from Dr. George, yeah, hey, Chris fell off a horse. I was like, what? What? What was he doing?
Yeah,
What was he doing?
yeah.
But
You'll not get a text like that again. I promise. I may fall off of something else, but it will not be a horse.
yeah, yeah. Well, grateful. Yeah, that there was a more, and it shows you what you have built, that capacity you've built. That's just really fun, and I think it provides some good story for others to know that all that stopping and taking a break, resting, allowing some restoration to happen can pay off, and we see it time and time again. But it's hard, and when you're in the middle of it. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to see that light.
I think that not just the fact that you're if you're used to doing certain things, right, and when that's taken away from you, you get you want it back as fast as you can. In our society, we are, what have you done for me lately, right?
Yep,
We
yep.
are immediate gratification, and so you've got to just learn to slow things down and just relax and know that you're not running out of time. It's going to be fine. Just let the process play itself out, and you'll be better off, so much better off down the road.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Well, just great stuff, Chris, and it's all part of what we're trying to do with these podcasts is bring those stories forward for folks to hear. Hopefully, they're reading our work too. That just makes it double benefit, and just can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing all that.
Happy to do it, and I didn't cuss, so there you go. You don't have to edit it out.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
All right,
so
Clay. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this Power of Doing What Matters podcast. Our purpose is to help others learn the power of doing what matters. Press that subscribe button, send it to others. Imagine 100 million people doing what matters. Reach for the stars for you and for others too.